Hello, beautiful people, and welcome, hi, to hell. This new abyss is certainly something. I kind of stopped doing the meta roundup every patch, but I figured doing something similar for this abyss was probably a good idea, because specifically, wild hunt enemies are some of the most punishing enemies we've ever had. Previously, when we've had like enemies that are shilling certain things to a certain extent, there have been alternatives for people that don't have the premium stuff. So for example, when you look at Papilla is supposed to be like Kanich and Chaska shill, but like you can do it with Hyper Bloom, you can use just burning in pretty much any team that's already running some Pyro or Dendro to get through the shield quickly. You've got a lot of like alternatives basically. In Abyss, the Papilla shield can actually be soloed by Mawika alone. But I guess if you don't have her, you can also use Pyro MC. You've got a lot of options. That's not the case for the Wild Hunt enemy. The Wild Hunt enemy's mechanic is basically a mechanic that kind of like triples their HP. By default, it starts normally, right? It's got a health bar just like normal. You just hit it. But when you kill it, instead of dying, it gets stunned. While it's stunned, it has a gray HP bar and a normal HP bar. While it's stunned, if you damage it, it will make it so that the gray HP bar gets closer to the bottom of his HP. The gray HP bar is effectively telling you he has lost this amount of max HP. When the stun is over, he heals back to full, up to his current max HP, so the gray HP bar is HP he won't be healing anymore. And so you get through the first down, then you gotta down it again. And then, right, when you do damage here, while he's down, his max HP bar goes down, right, instead of his current HP. And he keeps healing back to full like this until you manage to get his max HP bar to 0. Now, when you deplete his current HP, he loses a percentage of his max HP. It looks like he's losing about 9% HP on the first down, 18 on the second one, 27 on the third, and he generally won't need a fourth. Also, when he's down, the damage to his max HP, to the gray bar, is reduced. Right, so if you do 100,000 damage, it won't reduce his HP by 100,000, it will reduce it by 65,000. So, assuming you have like basically 1 DPS, and you don't deal any damage to the gray bar. In order to kill him, you'll need to do all of his HP once. So 100% the first time, then 91% the second time, then 73 the third time, then 46 the fourth time, then about 10 the fifth time, and then he dies. So if you have no damage on the shield phase, you will need to kill him 3 times over, basically. In practice though, you have some damage on the shield phase. So let's take a look at a team that in the shield phase can do about, let's look at 20% of his HP in the shield phase, or in the down phase, pre-multiplier, so the 65. So on the first one, you have to deal 100%. Then during that first shield phase, you're doing 20% of his HP. And then after that, he heals back to full. That 20% of his HP made him lose 13% of his shield. And he also gets the additional reduction of 9% from the first down, which means that in order to get to the second down, you need to do 78% of his HP. Then on the second down, you do the same thing, but the second down consumed 18% of his HP this time. And then the next down consumed 27, which means that the total amount of damage you'll have to do is still pretty close to 3 times his HP bar. But things start changing if you start being able to do a much larger portion of his HP in one down. If instead of 20, you're doing like 40 or 50 multiplier, you get to skip the third down. You get 2 downs and he will die from the HP consumption on the third down, and you've managed to save a good amount of the damage. Right? This isn't just you clear faster. This is the amount of damage required to kill him is lower because he healed less, basically. If you're able to do a lot larger of a portion, let's say you're getting to like 70%, it is way less damage. What this means is that if you have a team that's like really good, you have one of the very strong meta characters, and you're just able to output most of his HP bar in one down, this around 2 million HP enemy will require about 4 million damage to clear. But if you're not, he's going to require closer to 5 or 6 million damage to clear. So a team that has half the DPS will take much longer than twice the time to clear. It'll take like 3 times. Now, strong meta teams tend to be able to do a good portion of this guy's health and to be able to brute force a good amount. But even then, even at 4 million, this is an 8 million HP chamber. I don't think we've ever had a chamber that's 8 million HP before. The highest total for both chambers combined has been 10 million. And again, right, this is only with the really good teams. With an average team, you're closer to 12 million. And with a more cope team, it's closer to 14 million. Here's the thing though. That's like the default way these guys work before looking at their Nod Cry mechanic. What is their Nod Cry mechanic? The Nod Cry mechanic is if you hit them with an ability enhanced by Ascendant Gleam. So if you have 2 Nod Cry characters in your party, so you have Ascendant Gleam, and you use an ability that gets changed somehow by Ascendant Gleam, such as Ino's Burst, you can directly damage their max HP while they're not in the stun phase, right? So as you can see, right, we're just directly damaging the max HP. Instead of doing 65% of its HP, when you're in Ascendant Gleam, it's 90%. But that remaining 10% goes to its actual current HP. And when its current HP goes to 0, its max HP will be at 10%, and it gets reduced by 9% from the first down, so it's actually 1%. In other words, in Ascendant Gleam, you have to do 101% of these enemies' HP to kill them, no matter how good or bad your team is. One Nod Cry character does not work. If you didn't get one of the Nod Cry 5 stars, just putting Ino on your team won't do anything. You need to be in Ascendant Gleam for it to activate. In my opinion, this is really awful because if you didn't go for one of the new 5-star characters, you just straight up can't deal with the mechanic. There is no, like, alternative for the mechanic. And I think that sucks ass. At the end of the day, you can still brute force this if you went for the good characters, right? Characters like Maoika, characters like Skirk, characters like Varessa, characters like Neuvillette can do it, but it starts to become a bit harsher. Characters like Arlecchino as well, Florent. But it's pretty much only the teams that have like actually really good DPS. Yeah, characters like Molani are a little weird. If you do your setups properly and you like intentionally cut your rotations short, if you notice that the enemy is low HP, so that you can make sure that you start your setup and you can start your next rotation as soon as they go down, you effectively get to concentrate a lot of your damage during the down window, which helps you, well, deal a larger portion of their HP during the down, which bypasses potentially an additional revive. But you need to actively go out of your way to make that happen. In any case, all of this to say, when it comes to Chamber 2, the reality is that if you don't have a second Nod Cry character, your DPS check here is really high and you should be playing your best team. If you have Llama, playing her on the first side will save you like 20 seconds to 30 seconds, but playing her on the second side is probably gonna save you 1.5 minutes if you do Llama, Ino, Hyper Bloom. So for people that only have one Nod Cry character and it's Llama, I think a lot of people will be like, oh, I should play Llama first side because the first side is a Hyper Bloom shill. And like, you're not wrong, but if you don't have a team that's strong enough to brute force this, just put the Llama in the bag. Because Ascendant Gleam makes more of a difference than anything else in team building. And yeah, and if you don't have an Nod Cry character at all, you just put your best team there and you hope that your Hyper Bloom team is gonna clear this fast enough. You don't have to play Hyper Bloom here, but it's definitely what you should be doing. But yeah, let's talk about the other enemies. First chamber is very straightforward. You've got a Hydro Phantasm. We've had these before. Mech, pretty straightforward enemy. And then we have the Radiant Antelope, new enemy. It's got the same mechanic as the Moth from Chamber 2 of Last Abyss, where it like steals a bit of your HP and then it reduces your stats until you heal back to full. However, unlike the boss version of this enemy, the normal version of this enemy only steals a small amount of your stats, which means that if you don't have healing, or if you don't heal back to full because you just don't bother, you still deal pretty good damage. It's not necessary to get it back, so you can get away with healerless teams or with teams with bad healers like Kuki. Second to have is an enemy that's similar to the Wilderness Hunter. However, it doesn't work exactly the same way. This guy cannot be directly damaged to his max HP in the first HP bar. It's only after you down him for the first time that his max HP becomes like basically available for you to try to hit, which means that it's not as chill. A non-Nod Cry team will still need to be killing it like somewhere between 2 and 3 times depending on your DPS, but an Ascendant Gleam team will need to kill it twice anyways. So it's not that big of a difference. Chamber 2 is the local legend Bishop. This guy gets a Hydro Shield after you get it to a certain HP threshold. Hydro Shields, in general, are really, really weak to Dendro. Dendro reactions, Dendro onto Hydro is a forward side reaction, so it consumes twice the aura. A 1 unit Dendro application will reduce a Hydro Shield by 2 units. So he gets, like, completely obliterated by fairly fast Dendro application, which encourages Hyper Bloom or Bloom teams with Milo. Like, during the shield, its resistances are really high, so it's pretty hard to just ignore the shield. And he will sap your energy. And if your energy is empty, he'll start sapping your HP instead. Once you break the shield, he drops a lot of clear particles, so you get the energy you lost back. The next chamber has an enemy that almost requires you to have Bloom. Without Bloom for the battle scarred Rock Crab, you're just cooked, man. You can technically just brute force it, right? Like, wait out the shield phase, I frame his wipe attack at the end of the shield phase, and then just try to brute force it. But if you don't break the seeds, right, you don't engage with its mechanic by triggering Bloom on them, he gets 80% res. Okay, this is really high. And he's got 4.5 million HP, and it will re-shield back up if you take too long to kill it after about a minute. So even teams with high DPS can struggle to reach the DPS breakpoints to kill it before a second shield. And if it gets a second shield, things are real slow. That being said, on the second half, this guy is a joke. He does have the shield mechanic that he has in Abyss, or in Siege and Onslaught. However, he doesn't get increased resistances during the shield, unlike in Siege and Onslaught. And obviously, the amount of damage needed to get through a shield is lower because he's squishier, which means that the amount of teams that can reach the DPS breakpoint to break the shields is higher, obviously. Now keep in mind, melt and vape reactions do not get increased damage from the reactions on white shields. So characters like Molani, characters like Gaming will struggle to get through these shields because all of their damage is coming from Vapor Melt, so when they can't Vapor Melt, their damage is like divided by 3. If you have a team that can brute force this that isn't a Vapor or Melt team, you can very easily brute force this, even with a 4-star only Hyper Bloom. 4-star only Hyper Bloom generally takes 2 downs for the Battle Crab, but 2 downs in like, if you're not playing that well, if you're just kind of mashing your keyboard, you should be able to get your second down at like 8:20 remaining on the timer and kill him before 8 minutes remaining on the timer. And 1 minute against this generally just tends to be enough if your team had the DPS to brute force this. That being said, if you have an Krai team and you didn't need to brute force this, the DPS required for Chamber 3 will be higher because of the Crab being much slower to kill than the Bishop, and the Shock Trooper having a similar amount of HP to Ascendant Gleam Wild Hunt. So if you have Flynn's, Chamber 3 will be your hardest chamber. But it's still not too bad because this is a good enemy for Flynn's. Let's go and show some tips and tricks for all of this. But yeah, so first chamber is very straightforward, especially if you're playing a Hyper Bloom or a Bloom team, right? And the first enemy, you don't need to use your Hydro application because it's Hydro infused by default. So you're just vibing. But yeah, so as you can see here, we're still doing reasonable damage, even with our stats stolen, because it just doesn't steal nearly as much. He dodged. Nice. I don't want to talk about it. You know what? Actually, that's fine. Because I can show what I wanted to show here, which is when he's relatively low HP, you hold your Skirk E, then you start your setup, and then as soon as the down starts, you get your burst and a bunch of normal attacks, and you get to skip so much of his HP if you do this. his first down on the first chamber is shorter than the next one. Usually downs are 10 seconds, but the first down is I think 5 or 4. So an actual like premium Hyper Bloom team here, well, it's spooky, but whatever, right? You get through the shield really quickly. And you just also deal the damage you need really quickly. Alright, so it takes about 30 seconds. Yeah, another tip, if you're doing this with Naida, don't use her burst. That way, when he gets to this phase, instead of just dying from his aura, you just lose energy. Because if you're out of energy when he, like, during this phase, he takes your HP instead of your energy. So intentionally not using your burst on characters where your burst doesn't matter that much can be a strategy to make sure you don't die. Now we can show how to deal with these ones, right? So you start your first rotation normally. But here what we're gonna do is we're gonna swap out around here. Stare at him for a bit. And do this. And that way, we ended up getting his first down to leave him at like less than a quarter of his HP remaining. We can compare that to what happens if you don't stop and wait. Okay, let's take a look at this here. And as you can see, instead of having less than a quarter of his HP left, he still has over half. And it basically takes us 2 full rotations to kill him, instead of basically just 1.5. I think I might have swapped out a little too late here. He's going to enter his... I'm going to swap to healing mode for Arena so I don't accidentally get him to phase too early. I forgot to do a charge attack. Hey, it is what it is. But yeah, Skirk isn't the only character that can, like, control when a good amount of her damage happens. Specifically for Maoika meltings, it matters a lot. If the enemy is low HP during your setup, swap to Maoika and don't burst. Spin once so you can melt and kill the remaining HP and then burst. Anyways, then we've got the crab, which is really, really straightforward if you have Llama. Because with Llama, you basically get to skip the whole phase here by just going in the middle and using hold E. And then while the crab is, like, here, you want to be clearing these seeds by triggering Bloom or Hyper Bloom on them. damage you deal to the seeds are sent to him as well. Llama teams generally can kill him before he goes back up. Alright, as you can see, not much of a problem. So let's sub 1 minute. But non-llama teams don't tend to be able to one down it. Technically, it's still possible for some of them, but it's a lot closer. And then on top of that, the opening rotation is harder. Oh, I think we high rolled here. Or bloom positioning for the RNG of the generation. Not quite. Anyways. We get to generate our blooms. But we keep going like this. One tip I can give you as well is don't use your electro abilities when the timer gets close to a minute, and try to bait him towards the middle like this.
Let me weave you a verse.
That way your bloom seeds that you're spawning here, when he goes back up. Oh.
Bruh.
I fucked up. This won't be your fastest way to do a setup, right? Just relying on hyper blooms to proc. Technically, the fastest way to get him down without Llama Holdie is to use a bloom generating ability right as he's about to go up. Hope that the RNG for the generation is good, and rely on it hitting all of them. But this is actually just straight up RNG. You can control it to some extent by positioning yourself close to where you want it to go, but it's not something you can perfectly control. Anyways, here, don't use Cookie's E after around, well, I think we can use one more. It's gonna be tied whether or not we can use one more Cookie E. I will, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. Let's try to bait him towards the middle if you can. Oh! Did that work? It's close, but no, it's not. We got the timing right, but not the positioning. We didn't keep him stationary enough. But yeah, so with a really good setup, these non-llama hyperbloom teams will generally be taking about a minute 40 if your setup is like, or a minute 30 if your setups are good. Maybe a minute 20 if you manage to like pre-spawn the first seed as well. And it'll be closer to a minute 40 or 50 if your RNG isn't good, basically. And then this thing is just a question of dealing enough damage to it. Oops.
Let the world come alive. Boots on the loose.
But as you can see, just in terms of damage required, it's a lot squishier than the last chamber. If you are brute forcing. Yeah, we can show it with Malika as well. That's kind of annoying.
You two, time to end them. Wrath from the sky.
That was really bad. You dodged my application, so it f***ed things up a little. You know what? That actually kind of works out, because now... Okay, it does not work out.
Bring it.
I lied. He dodged all my energy generation. He dodged everything, man.
Lolling eats Papa. Light it up. Full throttle. Light up the blazing sun.
Okay, so I managed to get a melted burst during his first down, but it didn't crit!
Rise with the. I'm going in. Suffer the wrath of evil. Wrath from the sky. Incinerate. Incinerate. Try and stop me. Let's light it up. Burning, bring it. Teamwork is See Lolling eats Papa. Get him. Pyroclastic surge.
Yeah, okay. Let's show this one now. So, what to do if you see that the enemy is like really low HP here. Okay, no, actually.
Time to end.
Yeah, there we go. We wait for the E to hit.
Incinerate. Incinerate.
So that our burst damage doesn't just get lost into a 1 HP enemy.
Light it up. I'm going in. Fulfill our pact. See Lolling eats Papa. Get
Oopsie. I should have done it again here, but it's fine. Oops.
Incinerate. Light it up. Everybody stand. Get to work. Suffer the wrath of Eatfleet. Light up the blazing sun.
Yeah, let's wait there.
Rise with the sun. Bring it. I'm going in. Fulfill our pact.
And here, we don't need to because we already got him down from the Seed Volley burst.
Incinerate. Full throttle. Teamwork is show no mercy. Suffer the wrath of me.
What the f did I just do?
Pyroclastic surge.
There we go. Oh, yeah. And then here, because you're not melting, you don't need the Siglali burst, but you do need the rest.
Light it up. Bring it.
Make sure we pick up the
I'm going
Petra Crystal.
Fulfill our pact.
I might as well use it
Eats
for
Papa.
fun.
Light up the blazing sun.
I f***ed up a little here.
You two. Time to end the pyroclastic surge.
Oops. Yeah. I started my charge attack too early, and I noticed I didn't have the Cryo Aura. So if I didn't jump cancel it, I wouldn't have melted anything there.
Show no mercy. See Lolling eats Papa. Light up the blazing sun. Incinerate. Incinerate. Incinerate.
And we get a Seed Lolly, it's Papa ending.
Suffer the wrath of Eatsley.
You saw through the round of Eat Sleep. Anyways, all this to say, there's things you can do to work with it. I mean, especially if your teams are strong, it's not going to be too bad. Generally, though, teams that don't rely on, like, big hits of damage will be a lot easier to pilot, even if they're a bit weaker. So, Arlecchino, for example, will feel pretty good, because you don't really open yourself up to the possibility of losing damage into a shield, or into an HP threshold. Varessa also feels very good. But yeah, this is definitely, if you don't have a Krai character, the hardest abyss we've ever had. I gave up on 4-star only clears. My only 4-star team that straight up has the DPS to get through this chamber is Meld Gaming, but Meld Gaming can't get through this because you lose the melt damage, so his DPS is like divided by 3, and then he just starts tickling the shield, and then you can't get through the shield. There's some clears out there of people using Meltgaming for this, but they just straight up wait out the shield, and then they 2-rotate the Fatui in between the first and the second shield. I don't quite have the damage to kill it in 2 rotations on my build. I'd need like 2 rotations and a half, but by the time that half happens, he shields back up. So I give up on my 4-star only clears. And like trying to bring an Electrocharge team here makes this impossible. Like there is just no team other than Meltgaming that has the DPS to get through this for 4-star only. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like on the bright side, this Wild Hunt bullshit is only going to be like an actual major problem until we get another Krai 4-star. So everyone pray to Yahoda. This Yahoda unit is gonna save the game. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this like Abyss video. Honestly, this Abyss sucks. I don't really like it, but it's not really the Abyss itself. It's the new enemies, and one of these new enemies is coming to the next stage in Onslaught, which will not be fun either. At the very least, it's this one, not these guys. Then this one's a lot less bad. Anyways, I'm not really happy. Abyss is starting to be as chill as Stage in Onslaught, and I really don't like it. I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned a thing or two, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye, YouTube.